The morning on Emma Carter's farm arrived with a strange stillness, the kind that made her pause before opening the screen door. The sky was still soft and pale, and the wheat fields behind the house moved only a little in the early breeze. Emma stepped outside with her coffee, hoping the fresh air would settle the heaviness she had been carrying these past months. She had been trying to heal, trying to act normal, trying to keep the farm running after her broken engagement. But nothing seemed to lift the quiet sadness that followed her everywhere. That was why she noticed the envelope immediately. It sat alone on the wooden porch, almost too bright against the faded planks. She frowned, picked it up, had recognized the handwriting at once. Luke's her nephew had been staying with her for the summer, helping with chores, feeding horses, and keeping her company in his easy, cheerful way. He was the one person who managed to break through her silence when the evenings grew too long. But the note in her hand felt different. She opened it quickly, expecting something casual or funny, but instead found a short, serious message. Aunt Emma, meet me by the south barn after breakfast. I need to show you something important. There was nothing else. No smiley face. No joke. Just that. Emma's heart tightened with worry. Luke rarely sounded serious. He was the type to turn everything into a light moment, even things that probably shouldn't be light. For him to write a note like this, something must be wrong, or at least troubling him in a way he didn't want to say out loud. She stood still for a moment, holding the letter between her fingers, feeling the warm breeze lift the edges. A part of her wanted to walk straight to the south barn right then, but another part knew she needed to keep her routine. She didn't want to give in to fear before she even spoke to him. Inside, the house was quiet, except for the ticking clock above the stove. Emma made a simple breakfast, though she barely tasted it. Her thoughts kept circling around Luke's note. She wondered if something had happened in town, if he had gotten bad news from his mother, or if he had discovered a problem on the farm he didn't know how to fix alone. But even those thoughts didn't feel like enough to explain the tone of the message. There had been a strange mood around him the last few days, a kind of restlessness he tried to hide. She had noticed, of course. She always did. Luke had been like a son to her in many ways, and she could read him even when he pretended to be fine. When she finally walked outside again, the sun had begun rising, throwing warm gold light across the fields. The horses in the pasture lifted their heads as she passed, watching her quietly. Everything looked normal, peaceful, but her heart didn't match the scenery. It beat too fast, almost as if it sensed something waiting for her. The path to the south barn was familiar, one she had walked every day for years. Still, this morning it felt different, too long, too empty, too full of questions she couldn't answer yet. She tried telling herself that Luke probably just needed help with something, that maybe he had a small surprise planned, something harmless. He was thoughtful like that sometimes. But the seriousness of the note kept pulling at her mind. He wouldn't have written it that way unless he felt he had to. As she neared the barn, she noticed the large wooden doors were slightly open. That alone made her chest tighten again. Luke never left doors open. He was raised on farms. He knew better. She hesitated at the entrance, steadying herself before stepping inside. The barn was strangely quiet, the air cooler than outside. She didn't see Luke right away, and the emptiness made her pulse jump. She lifted her voice softly, calling his name, hoping to hear his familiar footsteps or his usual joking reply. But the only sound was the echo of her own voice. Emma's mind filled with a sudden wave of questions and fears. But before she could act on any of them, something on the far side of the barn caught her attention, a faint glow of lantern light. Warm and inviting, almost out of place in the morning sun. Her breath caught. Someone had prepared something intentional, something waiting for her. And in that moment, she realized this morning was not a mistake, not an accident, not a small request. It was the start of a day that would change far more than she expected. Emma stepped farther into the barn, the lantern light guiding her toward the open space at the center. The scent of hay and wood was familiar. The place looked strangely tidy, far more organized than she had left it the evening before. Tools were stacked neatly, bales arranged in straight lines, and the floor had been swept clean. Someone had put care into this. Someone had done it for a reason. Her heart beat faster as she followed the warm glow ahead, unsure of what she was walking into. When she turned the corner, she stopped so suddenly she almost lost her breath. There, standing beside a simple wooden table decorated with a checkered cloth and a small vase of wildflowers, was Luke. But he wasn't smiling. He wasn't joking. He wasn't himself. He stood stiff, like he wasn't sure if he had done something right or terribly wrong. And beside him, quiet, steady, almost unbelievable, stood Daniel Hayes. Emma stared, trying to process the moment. Daniel had been her childhood friend, the boy who grew up on the farm down the road. The one she had shared warm summers and long talks with. Years ago, he had moved away to pursue veterinary school, and even though they had promised to stay in touch, life had pulled them in different directions. She hadn't seen him in almost 10 years. Yet there he was, older but familiar. The same calm eyes, the same gentle presence that had once made everything feel easier. Luke was the first to move. He stepped forward with an uncertain smile, rubbing the back of his neck the way he did when he felt nervous. "Aunt Emma," he said, his voice a little shaky, "I know this looks unexpected, but I had a reason. A good one, I think." Emma tried to breathe normally, though her mind raced. "Luke, what is this?" she asked, keeping her voice soft even as confusion swelled inside her. He gestured toward Daniel, asked him to come. Daniel offered a small nod, respectful, almost shy. "Hi, Emma." Hearing his voice again stirred something deep inside her old memories she had pushed away. Times when she had thought they might become something more. Before life took them in different directions. She hadn't prepared for this. She hadn't expected any of it. Luke hurried on before she could speak. "You've been doing everything alone for too long. The chores, the responsibilities, all the weight after your breakup. I see it even when you don't talk about it." His voice steadied, as if he had rehearsed this moment. "I thought maybe you needed help. Real help. Someone who knows you. Someone who cares." Emma swallowed. She felt her eyes warm but forced herself to stay composed. Luke had always been thoughtful, but this went deeper than she expected. He looked genuinely worried for her, and that alone tightened her chest. Daniel stepped in then, his tone calm and gentle. "Luke told me the farm's been a lot for you, and he mentioned you'd been having a tough year. I happened to be coming through town this week, so when he called, I thought maybe I could at least offer a hand." He paused, searching her eyes in a way that felt familiar and new at the same time. "I didn't mean to surprise you. Not like this." Emma took a slow breath, grounding herself. I don't understand," she said. "Why not just talk to me? Why all of this?" Luke's gaze softened and his voice grew emotional. "Because you never ask for help. Not from anyone. Not even when you should." He looked down briefly, then back at her. "And because I thought maybe you needed someone who could remind you that you don't have to do everything alone." Emma's heart twisted. She had always been strong, always in control, always ready to carry her burdens quietly. But hearing her nephew say that, seeing the concern in his eyes, made her realize how much he noticed, how much he cared. Daniel added quietly, "And I didn't come to make things complicated. I just thought, maybe I could be useful. Maybe I could be around if you needed company or help." His voice carried a softness that tugged at old memories. "It's been a long time, Emma. But that never meant I stopped caring about this place." She blinked, overwhelmed by the moment. The decorated table, the clean barn, Luke's hopeful expression. Daniel's steady presence, all of it created a quiet warmth she didn't know she had been craving. But the moment didn't stay still. Before she could respond, a low rumble echoed across the fields. Thunder. The sky outside darkened in seconds. Heavy clouds rolling in fast, bringing the scent of rain with them. Luke looked toward the barn doors, worry tightening his expression. A storm's coming. A big one. Daniel moved closer, gently touching the lantern on the table to keep it steady. "We should stay here until it passes." Emma felt the air shifts, storm outside, tension inside, and questions filling her mind. Her nephew had brought her childhood friend back into her life. But why now? And what else had he planned? The storm was just beginning, in the sky and in her heart. The barn felt smaller now, with the storm roaring outside and the lanterns casting warm, flickering shadows. Emma stood frozen, her mind spinning. Daniel's presence brought a strange mix of comfort and confusion, while Luke's gaze was steady, almost expectant. She could feel that something important was about to be said, something she wasn't ready for but needed to hear. She took a shaky breath, gripping the edge of a hay bale, trying to steady herself as Daniel looked at her with that same calm, familiar intensity she remembered from years ago. Daniel ran a hand through his hair and let out a slow sigh. "Emma, I've thought about this moment for a long time," he began, his voice soft but deliberate. "When I left all those years ago, I thought I had to find myself before I could come back. I wanted to be someone important, someone ready for life's challenges. But no matter how far I went or what I achieved, I never found anything that felt like home. Not like this. Not like here." He gestured around the barn, then met her eyes again, steady and honest. "And Luke? He reminded me. He reminded me that home isn't just a place, it's the people we care about. And you, Emma, you've always been that person for me." Emma's chest tightened. She had remembered Daniel as a boy, a friend, someone reliable and kind. But she hadn't expected the depth of his words, the honesty behind them. Her heart thudded, memories rushing back of long summer evenings when they had talked for hours under the stars. Laughter echoing across the fields. Those moments seemed distant, almost like a dream. Yet here he was, standing in the barn. Decades older, but no less genuine. Luke stepped forward, his voice calm but emotional. "And Emma, you've carried so much alone. You think no one notices, but we all do. You always put others first, even when it hurts you. That's why I asked Daniel to come. I knew he'd understand, and I knew he could help remind you that it's okay to let someone in." He smiled just a little, and Emma felt warmth spread through her chest. Her nephew, the boy she had raised, had grown into someone thoughtful and brave. Someone who could see what she had been hiding, even from herself. Daniel nodded, adding quietly, "Luke didn't have to do this. Neither did I. But when he called, I knew I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't ignore the chance to be here for you, to help you, to maybe remind you what it's like to feel supported and seen." His eyes held hers, and for a moment Emma felt as if time had slowed. The storm outside faded into a distant murmur. The barn, the rain, even Luke's presence, all of it seemed to narrow down to the two of them. Standing in a fragile bubble of honesty and care, Emma's throat felt tight. She hadn't realized how much she had missed this kind of connection. The kind that didn't demand anything from her but simply existed, steady and true. She wanted to ask questions, to know why now. Why after all these years? Why Daniel had chosen to come back at this exact moment? But the words caught in her throat, replaced by a quiet realization that maybe she didn't need answers immediately. Maybe it was enough to simply be present to hear what was being offered without judgment or fear. Luke took a step back, giving them space, his role already fulfilled. "I just wanted you to know," he said softly, "that you don't have to do everything alone, and that you deserve happiness, Aunt Emma. You always have." His eyes glistened with emotion, but he forced a small, proud smile. He knew he had set something in motion, something that could heal her in ways he could not. And with that, he quietly moved to the side, letting them speak privately. Daniel reached out, gently touching Emma's arm. "I'm not here to rush you or make decisions for you," he said, his voice low and sincere. "I'm here because I care, and because I've waited a long time to tell you that you've always mattered more than I could explain. You've always been someone I wanted to be close to, someone I hoped would never feel alone." Emma felt tears sting her eyes, not from sadness, but from the unexpected weight of being understood, being seen, and being valued. She had spent months retreating, convincing herself that independence was all she needed, that love and support could wait. But here, in this barn, with the storm pressing against the walls and Daniel's honest words surrounding her, she realized how lonely she had truly been, and how much she had longed for this moment without even knowing it. The thunder rolled again, louder this time, shaking the barn slightly. Emma swallowed, finally finding her voice. "Daniel, I don't know if I'm ready." Her words trembled, carrying all the uncertainty she had been holding in. Daniel nodded, understanding. "You don't have to be. I'll wait. I'll stay. One step at a time. That's all I ask." And as the rain fell harder outside, Emma felt the first real spark of hope in months. Luke had brought them together, yes, but it was Daniel's honesty and care that began to heal her, bit by bit, in ways she hadn't thought possible. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside her heart, but slowly, surely. She felt it begin to settle. The rain hit the barn roof in heavy, steady drops, rattling the wooden boards and sending a shiver through the air. Inside, the lanterns flickered, casting soft shadows that danced across the walls. Emma stood near the center of the barn, heart pounding, eyes fixed on Daniel. Luke had quietly moved to the side, giving them space, his presence still a comforting anchor, but no longer the center of the moment. The storm outside seemed to press in on them, the world reduced to the barn, the rain, and the quiet hum of emotions neither of them had expected to confront today. Daniel took a slow step closer, his voice low but certain. "Emma, I came here not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because seeing you struggle from afar, knowing how strong you are, but also how lonely, made me realize that some chances don't come twice. And I didn't want to let this one slip." His hand hovered near hers, but he didn't reach. He let her choose. The honesty in his eyes was unshakable, steady as the storm outside. Emma's chest tightened, emotions twisting inside her like the wind outside the barn doors. She had spent months pretending she was fine, pretending that she didn't miss companionship or care, pretending that she didn't still long for someone who understood her completely. But hearing Daniel speak, feeling his presence so close, she realized just how much she had denied herself, how much she had longed for someone to stand by her, not just in words, but in heart and presence. She swallowed hard, trying to steady her voice. "Daniel, I don't know what to say." Words trembled, but they carried the weight of all the loneliness and hope she had kept hidden for months. "I didn't expect any of this. I didn't think someone could just come back after so long and be here like this." Daniel's lips curved in a gentle, understanding smile. "I know, and I'm not asking for a promise. Not today, not ever. I just wanted you to know that I never stopped caring, that I'm here now and I'm willing to stay if you let me. One step at a time. No rush, no pressure, just company, support, someone who sees you for who you are and values you." His voice was quiet but unwavering, carrying a warmth that made the barn feel smaller, safer, intimate in a way Emma hadn't felt in years. Emma's mind raced, memories colliding with present feelings, the long summer days she and Daniel had shared as children, the way he had always made her laugh, the secret moments of comfort she hadn't admitted she missed. And now, seeing him standing here, older, steady, and honest, she realized that some feelings never faded. They just waited for the right moment to return. The storm outside grew louder, rain slamming against the doors, wind howling across the fields. But inside, Emma felt a strange stillness. Her heart raced, but it wasn't fire, it was anticipation, hope, and a sense of being seen. She glanced toward Luke, who nodded ever so slightly, a soft smile playing on his lips. He had orchestrated this meeting not for himself, but because he had understood what his aunt needed long before she had admitted it. He had been the spark, but Daniel was the flame. Emma took a tentative step closer to Daniel. "I don't know if my heart is ready," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper, heavy with truth. "I've been hurt. I've been alone. And I don't know if I can just open myself again." Daniel reached out then, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "You don't have to. Not today. Not ever." Just let me be here. That's all I ask. We'll figure the rest as we go." His touch was gentle, comforting, not demanding, and Emma felt the tension in her chest ease. Little by little, the rain continued to drum on the roof, a steady rhythm that somehow mirrored the slow settling of her heart. Emma realized that life had a way of surprising her, that sometimes the people who mattered most returned when she least expected it, and that love wasn't always about grand gestures. It was about being seen, being valued, and being offered support when you didn't even know you needed it. Luke stepped fully aside, his mission complete, and Emma felt a wave of gratitude toward him. She had been blind to her own longing, too stubborn to admit her need for companionship. And yet, here it was, standing in front of her in the form of someone who had never stopped caring. Someone who had returned at the exact right time. Asterisk.